Welcome to CTV Beam Channel 7. It's been a year since the last national championship, and we have a rematch. And that brings together a reunion of two great former football players, one from the University of Alabama, Mayor Eddie Lowe, and one from Clemson University, Joe Waldrop. We're missing Billy Jackson, who is with his grandbaby at the hospital, just had a newborn. So first thing let's do is recap last year's game between Alabama and Clemson. What a game they had, a battle in the trenches. Alabama won 44-40. A great, exciting game. What I want to ask first is, what do we think were some of the difference makers in last year's game? And I'll start with you, Eddie.
Starting with Clemson, as far as the difference maker, is the three persons that really stick out in my mind is, of course, the quarterback. He's had another outstanding year, and he's very seasoned, as you can tell. He's very confident, and he has the ability, as all quarterbacks should be able to do, is to gather the team to really play hard around him. But the other two persons are the running back, Gallman, number 9, and they also have the receiver back. To me, I think those two guys, along with the quarterback, is going to be the toughest challenge for the University of Alabama, in my opinion.
Well, I agree with what he said. It's, we had last year a pretty good football team. Turned out to be, I think, a little better than we thought, because we played Alabama basically even, except for a few mistakes that we made that cost us the game. And but the difference makers, I think, are going to be twofold. One, we have two receivers that didn't play with us last year that are back, and both of them are very top-flight receivers, and they'll make a difference. They give us an extra edge on offense. And we have a better defensive front. We have a couple of freshmen playing on the defensive front, and they are just unbelievably good to me. I mean, 6'4", 6'5", 300 pounds, can run. And I think they have made a difference in our team. Now, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but he mentioned it. Deshaun Watson is a game changer. He's a game changer. If you give me a choice of quarterbacks and there's 1 minute left in the game and we're tied, I'm going to take Deshaun Watson. He gets you in the end zone. So that's kind of where we are. And I think we're about going to be, and Alabama's defense is better, I think, than it was last year. Alabama's offense is good. It's great. They have terrific running backs and a great freshman quarterback. So it's going to be a real fine contest, I think. I hope it's going to be a good show like it was last year.
I think you're right. I think we'll probably see the same kind of pace of a game that we saw last year. One of the differences last year that changed the momentum was the onside kick, and that kind of boosted Alabama out front. And there was one other thing that went on. There was something
the kickoff,
the kickoff.
Those two
return.
things.
Yeah, that took us out of the game. You take either one of those plays out of the ball game, we win.
Well, as we talked earlier before we start filming, it'll be about 3 or 4 plays that makes the difference in the game, because it's my concern is Clemson offense. They've seemed to me, in my opinion, to be gelling at the right time, and they have a lot of talent. They spread you out, and that makes it very difficult for any defense. But I think it's going to be a very good game. And Clemson, as we talked about earlier, will have a chip on their shoulder, which they should. And we just have to wait and see.
Yeah. And surely last year's game will have some kind of impact psychologically on each team, maybe a little bit differently too. I would think that Clemson would have a little bit more motivation, and Alabama might be fighting against, we've been there before and done that, and fighting against the complacency that Coach Saban always talks about. What do you think about that?
Well, I think
Clemson's going to be highly motivated.
I think that's a problem. I think that's a possibility. No doubt Clemson will be highly motivated. All year they've talked about finishing it out this year. We didn't get to finish it last year. We're going to finish it this year. That's what they've done all year long, and they're now there. And so I don't know how many of you have ever been have seen even a high school football game. A championship game is a different ball game.
It's a championship game.
It's a championship ball game. And when the whistle blows, the boys that are ready are going to blow it out, and they're going to leave nothing out there on the field. So I think Clemson's going to be highly motivated. But look here, we're playing the best team in the country. They're going to be motivated. They want to win another championship. It's going to be a real interesting night.
Well, you know, the amazing thing is this. Last year, if I recall correctly, Clemson was 14-0, and Alabama was 13-1.
Right.
So it's just the opposite this year.
Right. Yeah.
And when I say that around certain people, they think it's well, you don't need to be saying that. But to go back to what Mr. Waldrop said, it's going to be a championship game, which it should be. You know, as we talked earlier, and with all the things that are going on at the University of Alabama right now, you know, sometimes coaches does things to really motivate players, and it's just going to be interesting to see how it goes. But they're both great teams, and it's a championship game, and it's going to come down to 2 or 3 or 4 plays.
Well, it is. It's like Coach Swinney said. He said, you know, Alabama has set the standard in college football, and if you want to be the best, you got to go beat the best, and you got to have a chance to play the best, and that's where we are, and we hope we have a good opportunity, and that's kind of where he is, and that crowd's thinking.
Well, on to the next topic. For the last time, Lane Kiffin has missed the bus in Tuscaloosa. The Tuscaloosa News read this morning, exit Lane, and so the Lane Kiffin era is now over. The big question is, how will this affect the Alabama offense and the overall game plan for either team?
You know, maybe me being an Alabama guy, quite naturally, I want to feel that it shouldn't have any effect. But to be realistic about it, it's going to have some effect. Now, I will say this, is that we've all known that this was Lane last year. Probably we didn't know about the timing, but he had a 3-year contract. I have a brother-in-law who's in that business, had been telling me this was Lane last year because he's coached with Lane. But again, on the flip side of that, sometimes you have to wonder, and Coach Saban always seems to be a step ahead of most coaches. And as I was sharing with you, Mal, is that I have to wonder, is he doing that to really motivate the defense? Which to me would be a great strategy to put even more pressure on them, because they have been able to show that they can take that. So that may be a strategy, but I'm not surprised, because I've always stated from day one when Sarkisian got there that he was going to be the next offensive coordinator. Right. So it's not a big surprise, and they didn't just bring him in for that. Now, whether he's had contact with the players or not, chances are he had some form of contact, even if it's in the office. But it's stated he could not be on the field, not in the office.
Right. Right.
So you can do a lot of coaching in the office, but it will have some effect. But then again, on the flip side, maybe a new refresh start for the team. It all depends on how they're going to couch it. But I do know that he and the quarterback had a very close relationship, and that's one of the major concerns I have as far as playing a team like Clemson.
Well, I agree with most everything my good friend said, but I have a slight disagreement with one thing, and that is that this might have been timed in a way by Coach Saban to get his defense fired up. That defense does not need any firing up. That's the best defense in the country. They've got a bunch of heat-seeking missiles running around out there, and they are trouble. So they don't need any motivation, because they walk out there motivated. And anyway, I may be wrong about that.
Well, I'm hoping they can use it for motivation.
Yeah, if they need
even more.
If they need it, maybe they'll look over there and say, well, you know, we're sorry about Coach Kiffin leaving. Let's play harder. But I think that you're asking whether or not it'll make any difference, what difference it might make. There's been a lot of talk about this on the radio, and you can go listen, and you get every different opinion from anybody about this. But here's the way I see it. He's played football. Mal's played football. I've played football. the plays are already known. The strategies are already known. The question is, what are we going to emphasize on this game, and what are we going to do? And I'll say that probably you'll have a Saban influence in the offensive scheme in this game, and I'm afraid of that a little bit because it's going to be run the football, and then turn it over to your defense, and that's a way to win the football game. But let me say this too, and this is kind of this is what my old football coach would say. Well, he'd say, I ain't seen Kiffin throw any passes. I ain't seen him run the football. I ain't seen him make any tackles. I don't think he's going to make a bit of difference if he's gone. Well, so that's kind of Coach Howard.
It's kind of a catch-22 for Saban. If Alabama win, he's going to be a genius for pulling the trigger at that time. If they lose, then he should not have messed with the atmosphere. But going back to exactly what you said, one of your coaches said. Now, what I think that would probably happen based on the last game of them running the ball, because they seem very vanilla to me as we discussed, is Alabama running the ball a lot. Well, if that's the case, if I'm Clemson, I'll be having 7 men or 8 men in the box. And Saban, they may be thinking that, but Jalen Hurts can throw the ball well enough if you set up the run, because anybody can hit a bullseye every now and then.
Right. Oh, yeah. He's good. It's got to be a complete game. Our team's going to have to contain Jalen Hurts, and then we're going to have to stop the run and make him throw. And if we can do that, we've got a chance. If we don't do, and then we get the ball, we can, we got some speed out there. We got some speed out there. We can put the ball in the end zone. But.
Well, one more thing about Kiffin, and then we'll move on. Do you think Lane Kiffin will send Coach Saban a handwritten thank you letter for his great time at Alabama?
No, I do not.
That's a great question.
No, I do not.
Yeah. Well, I think he should.
No, well, he's probably not. But I do believe this, is that their mentalities is probably the same as far as being strong-minded, which is not a bad thing most of the time. Sometimes you have to pull back and look and reassess things. But Saban is the head coach. Kiffin has been a head coach. You got to follow what the balls say, whether you agree or not. But you still have to make his process work. You can disagree, but you got to do it in a respectful way to make his process work. But I don't think he'll be writing any love notes or anything.
Well, if he does, we ought to get a copy of it and put it out. But it'd be very interesting. But Kiffin and Saban are two totally different personalities. Y'all agree with that?
Completely different.
I mean, Kiffin's out there. Saban is here, man. He's zeroed in. And so they're very different, and sometimes when people are different like that, they've got to work it out and go on.
And maybe I shouldn't say this, but I will say this, and maybe I shouldn't, but, Lane is 42 years old, and he's a little childish, and I think Saban knew that he had to sometime put his thumb on him, from what I've seen, because he's like we all can get sometime a little bit immature, but Saban is not. Like you said, he's just like this. But Lane is a little challenge, and I think Saban knew that. He was willing to take the risk to be able to change, which was
and he
great.
May still have some growing up to do. We'll see. But, let's give Kiffin some credit, because I think over the last 3 years, he has handled an offense with 3 different quarterbacks. Yeah. And he's made a winning season out of 3 separate quarterbacks. And so he had to generate 3 different types of offenses,
and
did
won
a
3
great job
SEC championships.
Really. There you go. But I'll say this: they won't miss. They'll miss Saban about as long as it takes for that thank you note to get through the mail. And,
you mean Miss Kiffin?
Kiffin, about as long as it takes for that thank you note to get through the mail, and they'll be on down the road.
We appreciate him for what he did, and we wish him the best.
He's done a good job.
Yeah. And I think the kids really responded to him well and liked him. So, anyway. Next question or next topic. There's lots of common denominators or similarities or people that have touched both Clemson and Alabama, and so there are lots of storylines there.
Yeah.
One is Dabo. He played at Alabama and was a graduate assistant coach when I was finishing out there. Do y'all have any other guys?
Yeah,
I know you've got a bunch, but
I was sharing Homer Jordan the last year that they won the national championship at Clemson. The quarterback was Homer Jordan, and he and I are friends. I know him very well. He's from Athens, so he and I've been going after each other. Perry Tuttle, who was one of the wide receivers that played on that year with them, won wide receiver. Jeff Davis, who was a linebacker, who is from Phoenix City, he's working for Clemson, I think, right now. The last time I talked to him. So, but there's a lot of similarity, and you compete against each other. But at the end of the day, when it's over with, you shake hands and love each other.
That's it.
But
people don't realize that, do they? But if I'd played against you and hit you as hard as I hit you and you and me, and the game's over, we'd have put our arms around each other.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day.
So it's a lot of connection. Brinson Buxton, I know him from there, and
he went to Carver.
He went to Carver
and played at Clemson.
Played at Clemson.
Played in the NFL
with the Panthers.
That's right.
And Marvin Sims, who was the first person I've known from Phoenix City, I could be wrong, that went from Phoenix City to Clemson and played with Baltimore Colts. Went to Pacelli, so he played. So we poking fun at each other, but at the end of the day, whoever lose, we'll be sad for a few minutes, but then everybody goes out and have fun and shake hands.
It's just a football game after all. But to me, I got thinking about this when Mal asked that question. I thought, well, to me, it's kind of like a family fight. My college football coach was Coach Frank Howard, and he grew up in Barlow Bend, Alabama. Nobody can find it on the map, near Mobile, and went to Alabama. And on an academic scholarship, and then got an athletic scholarship. Played football a couple of years ahead of Coach Bryant, and then was the left guard on the Rose Bowl team where Alabama played Washington State and beat them 30-0 or something like that. That was in 1930. Well, in 31, he graduated from Alabama and took a job at Clemson. And he became assistant coach, and then he became head coach after all that. Jess Neely hired him at Clemson, and Jess Neely had been an assistant coach at Alabama. Okay. So there are all these connections. Now, Danny Ford, of course, coached in 1981, played at Alabama, was a fine ball player, highly thought of, became a head coach at Clemson at age 31.
That's the year, and he won the national championship with him.
Well, it wasn't that year. It was
but he was the coach.
He was a coach. He was a coach of the Gator Bowl that night. Woody Hayes got fired for hitting that ball. That was his first college football game. You remember that? Yeah.
I remember.
And he was third. Anyway, so Danny Ford went to Alabama, played at Alabama, won a national championship at Clemson. I grew up in Lynette, Alabama. I went to Clemson on a football scholarship in '62. And Jimmy Addison was a fine quarterback from Fairfax, Alabama. He went to Clemson, and I'll tell you a story about him in a minute if we got time. If I don't quit talking, we're not going to have time. But nonetheless, Fred Cohn was Coach Howard said he was my best ball player ever, running back. Never played any real football, but he gave him a scholarship, and he was great. From Pineapple, Alabama.
Wilcox County.
Yeah. Coach Howard used to say it was 2 wagon greasings from Birmingham. And we have a lot of Alabama connections. I want to tell you a story about Addison. This is Coach Howard. Now, he got a lot of humor, and I tell Coach Howard stories every time he pushed my button. And but Addison was a straight A student, and he was a fine quarterback. We were playing somebody. I wasn't there. It was after I left. Clemson was playing somebody like NC State, and Coach Howard sent a play in the game, and Addison changed it in the huddle. They called him Needle. They called Jimmy Addison Needle. He threw a wheel route down the sidelines for a touchdown. He scored, thank goodness. So Sunday, when they got in the team meeting and started looking at the film, Coach Howard walks in. He says, "Now, boys, when a play comes in from the sidelines, it's an order. But if Needle's in the game, it's a suggestion."
I don't think that would have worked with Coach Bryant.
Coach Bryant wouldn't have it that way.
No.
Coach Bryant wouldn't have it that way. But anyway, that actually happened. I thought that was kind of funny.
Those are some great stories. Well, the last time that Clemson won a national championship was 35 years ago. Who was the coach?
Danny Ford.
That's right.
Coaching it.
And last time Clemson beat Alabama was in 1905.
Right.
How is
really?
this? Yeah, that's what I didn't do my fact checking, but I saw it on ESPN this morning.
I don't know.
Mr.
Waldrop, is that?
I don't know about that. I've not checked that. But
Maybe we
I'll
should
take you at your word.
I take it off of ESPN, but
Yeah.
Well,
we'll have to Google it and see.
Right.
But Alabama's favored by 7. I think since the Kiffin is gone, Vegas gave Clemson a 54% chance of winning. But Alabama's still favored by 7. How do you think the game's going to turn out?
Here's what I think. Maybe I'll let him go first, and I can have a closing argument. That's what we lawyers like. But nonetheless, here's kind of what I think about that. It's going to be a good football game. There's going to be a lot of contact, a lot of great plays, going to be some mistakes, and all of that. Alabama has got a good defense. Clemson has got a good defense. Alabama's got a good offense. Clemson's got a good offense. Alabama's got good coaches. Clemson's got good coaches. But Clemson's got one thing that Alabama doesn't have, and that's number 4.
A mature quarterback.
He's the best football player in the country, no doubt, in my mind. But I'm a little prejudiced, but I'll have to say Deshaun,
I would agree with
Watson
you.
is, you know.
That's the difference makers for Clemson.
Could be.
Is, in my opinion, is him. As an ex-player, I would rather much play against a quarterback who can throw extremely well but can't run as well, because in my mind, I knew sooner or later I could easily get to that person. Yeah. But a person like Deshaun Watson that can throw well and run well and extend plays is the ones that I hated to play against. And being a defensive guy, I know that Alabama feel the same way. So I would think they're going to try to have some spy techniques where they try to contain him. But even that, you can extend plays. But it's going to be a very physical game, which it should be, in my opinion. And I just believe it's going to be won in the trenches, where that won't ever change in football. It's the ones who mano each other in the trenches is going to be the deciding factor. But, you know, whether it's by 7 points or not, I don't know. It's going to be a very close physical game, and it's going to 3 or 4 plays are going to make the difference. So Deshaun Watson is, you know, scares me, as well as a receiver Williams, who had the broken neck last year. And that running back is not bad either. Yeah, he's pretty good, and he plays with a lot of heart and determination, and that's something you can't coach. And so, you know, I'm a little worried about that.
Well, you know, last year Derrick Henry broke a long run early in the game. When I announced 7-0, I said, "Oh Lord!" The next thing I know, they've hit Renfro, our little receiver, in the corner of the end zone. It's 7-7.
That's number 13.
Yeah. Renfro.
Yeah.
I mean, and so there we go. We got a ball game going on, and I think it's going to happen. I hope it happens something similar to that. I really think both teams are going to be ready. Kiffin notwithstanding, it's not going to make much of a difference. Not a discernible difference. We won't be able to tell what difference it makes. The players are going to play. They're going to get out there and go. And so I'm thinking,
I would use that to motivate my team.
Yeah, you got to pull together here.
If I was Saban, that would be my point.
Surely he's going to do that.
Absolutely, he'll do that.
Well, we're about out of time here. Any last words of wisdom or any last hoorahs you want to throw out there?
No, I just wish everybody play a good game. I wish a good game to Alabama. I wish a good game to Clemson. I hope the fans enjoy it, and I hope nobody gets hurt. And we all have a good time, and when we come away from it, we shake hands and go on back to work.
It's I will say this, it is a championship game, and it should reflect that. At the end of the day, you know, we're pulling for who we're pulling for, which is important at that time. But at the end of the day, regardless who wins, and the players understand this very, very well, is you still shake each other's hand, you still love each other, you don't hold grudges. But I'm just hoping everybody stays healthy, everybody play, and I am hoping Alabama win.
I wouldn't believe it if you said anything else.
But at the end of the day, it's about relationships, and those players and all that is to be something that they can cherish all their lives, and one day they'll be taking our places.
In 1967, Alabama went to Death Valley and played in Death Valley. I was in law school at Duke at the time, so I couldn't go to the game, but Alabama won that game 10-7, and the clock ran out. Well, Clemson had the ball on Alabama's 1 yard line, so it was that close. Now that was 67. Now I think since then we had a game with Alabama and they just blew us out.
2010, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they
Or
just
no, 2009. We played the opening game.
Well, the opening game
yeah,
at the
yeah,
Dome.
in the Dome.
against
That's right.
Tuber-
Yeah,
Tuberville.
that's right.
The Dome.
That's right. I forgot
Saban
about
credits that Dome
Tuberville.
game as giving him a kickstart.
Well, Tuberville was Bowden, wasn't it?
Bowden coached it. For us, we had one good touchdown. C.J. Spiller ran a long run, but I mean, I was at that game, and Alabama came out of that tunnel down there, and I said, we are in trouble. They were jumping up and down all over each other, and when the ball was snapped, they beat us to death in the line of scrimmage.
That was in 2009, man. I had forgotten about that.
So that was,
and
that set Tommy Bowden on a different
No, that
course,
was
right?
2008.
Eight.
2008.
We had 16 freshmen playing on the field.
I
at
think
once.
that set
Yeah.
Tommy Bowden on this course, and it set Saban on this course. Alabama took off, so it was.
Well, I heard that Tommy called Coach Saban and asked him what he could have done different.
Yeah, I heard that
That
too.
was kind of embarrassing.
I don't know that I'd have made that phone call.
I
if
wouldn't have
I'd
done that
been
either.
We're done.
Yeah, all right,
we out of
that's
time?
it. Yeah. All right, good.
Thank you for watching. We appreciate your time.
Thank
Eddie
you all.
and Joe. Don't forget to come out and watch the National Championship game at Kramer's Bar and Grill on 431 South. Thank you very much.